So before we look at some webinar companies and see, what they offer and what they look like, let's just spend 5 minutes and talk about what to look for in a webinar company. Now, obviously, there are a lot of webinar companies out there. There's many, many different providers, all with different features, different benefits, and so on and so forth. So the question is, well, which one do you choose? And that's part of the answer we're hoping to answer, part of the question we're hoping to answer in this video. So firstly, you've got to know your budget. How much money have you got to spend on running the webinar? Yeah, part of this will determine, which provider you go with, but if you have an idea of how much money you're looking at make, you're confident you can get, say, 1,000 listeners, and you feel that you can make sort of, say, $600 in sales, you don't mind spending sort of a few $100s on the webinar. So you have to understand what to expect to make from the webinar. If you're purely list building, but that you're going to make money off them sort of once they become on your list, you'll go, yeah, okay, I don't mind spending money. But if you're sitting there thinking, well, I'm not going to make any money from this at all, what's the point in spending too much money? So you've got to understand your budget. You need to know really what you're aiming to achieve from your webinar, and that's going to help you determine how much money you are going to spend on it all. So, get to grips with your budget first of all, know how much money you've got available to spend. So you need to know as well, do you want to have the session recorded? Are you going to say, well, yeah, I want to record this webinar because I want to, I don't know, maybe you want to say, well, I want to market it later on, use it as a product, have a replay available. In which case, yeah, sure, you're going to have to, you are going to have to get it recorded. So do they offer a record facility? If they do, is it included in the price, or are they going to try and charge you extra for it? You need to know that. What's the reliability of this webinar company? Are they there for the long term? Do they offer good quality? Do they have problems? Go and look at people's reviews. Have other people found it? Have they had issues, or have they found no problems at all with the company, found them very easy to work for? So look for a few reviews of the webinar company, and that is going to help you again to make your decision. How easy is it for the listener to use? Again, unless you've attended a webinar on that company, you can't really answer this question, but you do need to think about how easy it is. Look at a demonstration, see what it looks like. Is it intuitive? Do the people have to download any software? Can they just go to a browser window? What you might find is some people, shall we say, get a little bit upset if they have to download any software. People don't like downloading software, and quite often, I know this sounds ridiculous, but quite often you can find that just the fact that the webinar company insists that they download some software will put a lot of people off. I will admit it often puts me off. I don't like to put the software on my computer, because at the end of the day I don't want yet another piece of software cluttering up my computer and taking up all the space. So a lot of people don't trust it. So quite often, if you can find a webinar company where you don't have to do any of that, it'll be much, much more effective for you as the person who's hosting it. Now, you need to, as well, one thing that's useful is being able to host polls and take questions. Can you ask questions of people and get them to take a poll? Can you say, well, does everyone understand how to FTP something to a server? If you get back, 90% of them don't know, you want to cover that. But if you get back that only 10% don't know, you may say, right, well, when you go to the replay, I'll put a video up there of it, and you could take some things offline then that you spend time talking. It helps you if you can run polls to understand what your listeners know and what they don't know, which obviously is going to help you tailor the training program specifically for them. As I said, the last thing you want is to spend an hour explaining how to FTP and how it all works when 90% of your audience knows, because they're going to be bored senseless. So, it's useful to be able to do that. Same with taking questions. You want to be able to take questions. You want to be able to, have people be able to ask questions, because that helps you understand what they do and don't know, and it helps you understand what they don't understand that you're explaining. Because you may think you're explaining something that's crystal clear, but to everyone that's listening, they're scratching their head going, I don't know what he's talking about. What's he talking about? No idea. He's talking gibberish. So, taking questions often helps. Now, whether you answer the questions then and there, or you leave them to the end, that's up to you. One thing that works quite well is keep an eye on the questions, and if the questions are something that is directly relevant and will help understanding of what you're trying to communicate, answer it then and there. If it's one that you look at and think, well, it's a bit off topic, write it down and you can always answer it at the end. So, that's very, very important. Now, here's another important consideration. How easy is it for you to use the webinar company? Is it easy? Is it difficult? Is it an intuitive interface? Is it complex? Does it require you to install software? Etc., etc., etc. You have to understand how easy or not easy it is to use the webinar company yourself. What's the availability of incoming lines? If you're running a webinar and you're expecting 4,000 people on it, but the webinar company go, well, actually, we can only really support 100 people, then it's useless, waste of time. You've got to understand how many people they can support and whether that is sufficient for your needs. If you're planning on a paid webinar where you're only going to have 100 people, you don't need 4,000, a capacity of 4,000. So, again, you've got to understand the size of your webinar, because it's going to influence your budget. But again, the final consideration really is, what's the speed of response to the website? Is the webinar host one of these companies that's so slow? You click on something and it takes ages to update. Again, you can get this from other people's experiences. Look for reviews and comments and so on. But I think we're going to look at the webinar companies in a moment, but you have to consider all of these points when you're selecting your webinar company. You do not want to have any issues. This webinar has to be delivered really, really professionally in order for you to maximize your earnings. If you are going to struggle with your webinar and you find that the webinar company is causing you problems, that's not going to help you to make any sales or make any profit from it. So, please make sure that you consider these. Now, we are going to show you 2 webinar hosts. There are many, many more. Which one you choose is ultimately up to you. The 2 we're showing you here, I'm not recommending in any way, shape or form, because there's plenty out there. But what I am showing you is 2 that are very popular and commonly used by internet marketers. So I want you to be aware of them. So let's go over now and look at 2 of these webinar companies, just to show you around a little, show you sort of some of the pricing schemes and give you an idea of pretty much what to expect.